Folks, welcome back to the Freaky Deaky.
Oh shit, we're here.
We are, yeah. You were staring at your phone. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this going.
I've been sitting here for a half an hour and you've said 2 words, so I don't want to hear it.
For a half an hour?
Yeah, I was like,
it takes me 10 minutes to set things up.
I said, is there a problem? And you're like, you just ignored me.
You didn't say, is there a problem? Otherwise, I would have heard it.
You didn't hear what I said to you?
All I heard was...
Also, Scott is always right.
Now, what do we say to people that don't believe that, Christian?
Beat it out of them.
Wow, okay. It's one way to do things. This week, we are diving into one of Christian's favorite things. And I am, of course, talking about Dogman. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done a Dogman episode. So much so that I believe the first one was episode 5 of this podcast. And it is now episode 199, which means this show has been going on for way too long. But that's beside the point. Hopefully this one is a little better produced than the previous one, seeing as how we were a little wet behind the ears. Is that the phrase? Is wet behind the ears? Is it green? Is it green behind the ears?
It's not the phrase I would have used.
Green behind the thumbs? I don't, who knows? It's still early. It's fine, honestly.
There's green on my bum. No,
okay.
That's totally different. I'm sorry.
Okay. Now that's been...
Finger painting, man.
Impossible to take back. Yep. So we're getting into more Dogman stories. So if you're a fan of, let's call them werewolves, then you'll appreciate this. And you are probably aware of what a Dogman is if you're listening to this episode.
It's a fake cryptid that people made up because they couldn't find Bigfoot. Come at me, bro.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's the case, but...
At the same time, Christian's pretty sure that's the case. And beside all that, we're going to go ahead and get into this episode now. So we will see you on the inside. You are now entering the realm of the Freaky Deaky, an unsuspecting stop at the crossroads of fantasy and reality, where the frayed edges of make-believe seep into this cookie-cutter white picket world you've been led to believe is far from extraordinary. What you're about to hear are true stories.
Alleged true stories.
Christian, just... Okay? Tales of the strange and inexplicable thought only to exist in film and folklore. Although difficult to accept, we do not know everything about this reality, about time or space, what lies beneath the ocean's depths. And try though we might, the unchanging truth remains. There are some things we legitimately cannot explain logically. And now that we're on the inside, I'd like to take a moment of my time as Christian crinkles his gum wrappers. Right over there, I can hear it distinctly, and it's fine, honestly. There's nothing more professional than chewing gum while being on a podcast, as you all know. I'd like to take a moment to give a special shout out to Eric Long, our show's first producer. You a real one, Eric. Thank you very much. We're very thrilled to have our first producer. And if you would like to support the show in any way, shape, or form, you can do that by visiting thefreakydeaky.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the website, click the donate button, and click whatever button tickles your fancy. Eric is going to be listed in the show notes and pretty much across the board as producer. And honestly, I didn't even specify for how long. I didn't say, hey, you donate this X amount of money, then you get to be a producer for X amount of time. I'm just honestly going to keep it there until we get a ton of producers. And right now we have 1. So I think Eric's going to be there for a while. But either way, man, we really appreciate it.
I'm not sure about the topic our producer picked.
He didn't pick it.
Isn't that what producers do?
Sure.
You're not playing along with the producer thing.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, our producer picked this. It wasn't me. And also, I was originally going to make this episode an entirely different episode, but I'm actually pushing that back to episode 201 because I was like, I'm not really sure how well this episode's going to be received, and I'd hate for that to be the first episode that I shout out our producer on. So Eric, thank you again for your patronage and for helping keep the lights on around here. It's a lot of work putting this show together, and the fact that people are willing to donate their hard-earned money is it's humbling to say the least. So thank you for that, and we hope we make you proud. Anyway, all that aside, if you are new to this show, we ask one thing of you, and that's that you just check it out in its entirety. And if you're a fan of what you hear, you slap a 5-star review on that bad boy. It's really not a difficult ask. It's actually very simple, and it helps us spread the show around more than you could ever possibly know. So we've been gaining some traction over on YouTube. If you have not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We've been dropping bonus stories every other Friday. And in between those, we've been dropping our YouTube exclusive show, Sleep with the Lights On, which is always a treat. So get over there. Go do that. Join the Facebook group as well. With all that aside, let's get into these Dogman stories, huh? We got some very interesting ones. And if we have time, I'm going to close it out on a very, I don't even know how to put it, to be honest with you. It's just strange, but that kind of fits the brand. It fits the brand.
Why do you think we invented Dogman?
Why do you think that Dogman was invented at all?
Because dogs don't walk on 2 feet unless you train them.
Well, Christian,
I don't see anybody walking around with a treat above their nose, making them stand on 2 feet like I used to do with my dogs.
well, that's because most of these are about 7 to 9 feet tall. And so there's very few people that have the wingspan to lift up a treat above a Dogman's nose and say, come here, boy.
I just figured it out. Giants are involved.
Yes, of course, giants. Come at me, bitch.
What the hell? I don't like that one.
Okay, here, hold on.
Come at me, bro.
There you go. Much more G rated. Is that more tickle your fancy?
I don't know.
This is the last time I'm going to say tickle your fancy in this
please
episode.
Stop tickling my
I think
fancy.
2 is enough. Yeah, 2 feels like enough. Anyway, this first story is called The Trucker and the Dogman. And what you'll notice a theme in these story titles is that your boy is mentioning Dogman quite often as I'm trying to some views, SEO, keyword type rich titles.
I was pretty sure it was just to torture me.
Oh, well, that too. I've heard it both ways. Anyway, The Trucker and the Dogman says, my uncle had an encounter in the summer several years back. Only reason I believe him is because his whole life, he's always been a super serious, no bullshit kind of guy. When he told the story, he sounded genuinely upset about it. He is a long-haul truck driver and was stopped on the side of the highway in a heavily wooded area. This was somewhere several miles in the middle of nowhere, but he said it was closest to Reed City, Michigan. I can't recall what he said he was doing, but he had to fix something before he could take off. Also, he didn't have a trailer on at the time. He had just gotten done fixing up his stuff and was about to climb into his vehicle when he saw a deer come towards him from the tree line. He said it looked like it might have been running from something. He assumed it might have been a bear. He was just getting ready to leave when he suddenly sees something looking at him through the passenger side window. He described it as having jet black fur and bright yellow eyes, as well as vicious-looking, snarling teeth. It was so close to him that he could see its fur blowing with the slight breeze that was coming through. The window was open, but it didn't seem to notice, as was evident when the creature put its paw up to the window, as if to press it against the window, but pulled it back in shock when it realized its paw actually entered the vehicle. My uncle typically carries a gun on him. At this time, he had a heavy revolver. The exact name and caliber is beyond my memory right now. He pointed it at the Dogman and pulled the trigger, effectively shooting it directly in the face. Finally, the truck started moving fast enough for him to be confident that the thing wasn't following him, should it have survived the shot. He didn't bother waiting around to find out. He said he still gets disturbed when he thinks back to that event. He described it as giving off this aura of pure evil and ill intent in only the few seconds he faced it. He has nightmares about this creature to this day, and he refused to tell anyone about it until several years after it happened for fear of people thinking he had lost his mind. Another reason I'm able to buy this story is because he has never been interested in the occult, supernatural, paranormal, cryptids, etc. He had no idea what to make of this thing. He saw, but when he told me the story, I told him to look into the Dogman. When he looked online, he said the artist's depictions of Dogman perfectly represented what he saw that day. All right, Christian.
Meth. Truck driver. Long haul. Tired. Pharmaceuticals. It's haunted.
It is haunted. You're right. So you're thinking this guy was drugged up in his truck, just hallucinating some random Dogman?
No, actually, I don't think that. I think this person saw a cosmic horror type of the creature and just placed a dog man on top of it because he couldn't handle the actual darkness that he saw.
The one interesting thing about this story, I will say, is that in most cases, and this could have just been a wording on his part, but in most cases, people say that these things have hands, not paws. And the way he worded it was when its paw came into the window, Which, again, it could just be a phrasing choice on his part, but that did strike me as kind of odd. I'm like, this thing had paws, or was it hands? Let's get the story straight. But creepy all the same.
It is a creepy story.
What happens if he did kill that thing, shoots it square in the eyes or whatever, it falls over on the side of the road? People just driving past this thing all day, like, what the hell is that?
Well,
Or get slipped back into another dimension. To
be healed and come after him again.
Come at me, bitch. Oops.
Come at me, bro.
There you go, Christian. I lightened it up for you. Yeah, that's a creepy story. I don't ever want to see a dog man.
I've seen a bunch.
I've seen a dog man.
Yep.
They're all over my neighborhood, bro.
I've seen the artist rendition of a dog man because there are no pictures. If you got pictures, post them on our Facebook group. I'd like to see.
There are people that have taken the classic blurry photo and been like, is this a dog man? And there are some that look like they have dog ears and snouts, whether or not, I mean, it's not ever clear enough to be like, oh, that's definitely a dog. But even, pareidolia aside, it's understandable that people would believe that. And especially if you're in this situation where it's 3 feet away from you, it's hard for you to really be like, I don't know what it was. Pretty close up, you have burning yellow eyes.
What if it was
Dog
just
head.
his friends messing with him and he
killed him?
almost shot him?
That'd be weird for his friends to know exactly where he's going to pull over on the side of the highway, chase a deer out of the tree line, and pop his head in the truck.
I saw, when I was driving over this morning, everybody all of a sudden slammed on their brakes. And I was like, what the hell? And then I saw a moose off to the side. Maybe it was being chased by the Wasilla Dogman.
That is a possibility, Christian, and I know you say that in jest, but it is definitely a possibility, as there are several stories of Dogman in this area.
I looked around for one. All I saw was a car wash.
But you didn't check inside the car wash to see if the Dogman might have been an employee, did you?
I know a guy that works there that's really furry.
Well,
he comes into the store.
Okay.
Maybe he's Dogman.
Did you ask?
I might tonight.
There you go. I might tonight. Anyway, let's get into this next one. It's called Dogman at the Crossroads. It says, a while ago, I used to walk around the farm property that I live on during the AM hours because my sleep schedule was gone and I hate coyotes. I'd never had an issue. It was a bit spooky, but I typically got through it. Except one time, at about 1 a.m.-ish, I was halfway through my walk when I saw something that appeared to be 9 foot tall walking towards the crossroads I was heading to. So I turned my ass around, ran half a mile back to my house, waited outside a bit to see if anything was there, and while waiting, suddenly the fear went away and I went back inside. While looking over the trail, I found this. Oh, it's a picture of a paw print next to his boot. Classic stuff.
Is it a big one?
No, very tiny. The smallest Dogman on Earth. And it says, my boot size is 11 wide. There's almost nothing that has a print that size aside from a mountain lion or bear, which my area doesn't have.
Wait a second. Does it look like a dog print?
Yeah.
So he's not claiming it's a mountain lion or bear dog or print that looks like a dog. Okay.
Yeah, the claw marks specifically look very dog-like in nature. He says, aside from a mountain lion or bear, which my area doesn't have, the claws are nearly as long as the pad. It doesn't make sense. He said, so yeah, without my posse of dogs, I don't walk around at night anymore. Which is good advice in general. If you have a dog and you're going for a walk at night, take the dog with you,
When I'd take Bristol hiking with us, I'd always be like, you're bear bait if we get in trouble.
And she was like, cool, I have no idea what that means. Let's go.
Yeah, she was all for it.
I kind of envy some of these people that have these stories, especially the ones where it's like far off and they have time to run away.
I don't, because I'd be very upset if I saw a Dogman out there.
You'd be like, damn it, it's real?
Yeah, you could show me other creatures, I'd be fine, but a Dogman just
the wind right out of your sails.
I can't get on board.
You probably wouldn't even share it. You'd be like, you just keep it to yourself for the rest of your life. On your deathbed, you'd be like, I saw a Dogman.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's just, I don't know. Like, it seems the odds are not in your favor with these things. There's a lot of stories and stuff like that, but considering how many people there are on the world, and there's like 100 stories, you're like, damn, the odds of me seeing something like this are very slim. Though we do live in an area that you'd be like, you never know. You could run into something out there,
if I saw a Dogman, I'd probably be more likely to be like, ooh, Skinwalker.
You'd be like, come here, boy.
Yeah, I probably would do that.
And it's nighttime and you whistled, and then you're toast. It's all out the window for you.
Not if it's sometimes when my mouth gets dry, I can't whistle. Be
saved
lucky.
by Cottonmouth for sure. Why not?
Do you think Australia has Dogman?
Yes, mainly because I was reading a story from Australia of a dogman.
What do they call it?
I can't remember. I think what Mexico called it. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's like, it starts with an N though. But that almost sounds like a skinwalker creature based on what they were saying, or based on what the lore of that story was. So I'm not even sure if that's specifically a dogman per se, or if it's like a skinwalker that looks like a dog, you know? But I do know that there was a few stories that I came across that were from Australia. I don't remember if they had a different name for it, or if just for the sake of the story, they called it what it's most commonly known as, you know? But they do have the Yowie and stuff like that for Bigfoot. So I'd assume that there'd be something different for Dogman as well.
Sharkman.
Shark Bear.
Sharkman Down Under.
Wow.
We just created a new movie.
Or a straight to VHS movie from the 1980s. This next one's called Dogman on the 195. And it's by Heathen Med. This is something I saw in early June of 2009 while stationed at the now Fort Cavazos. It was Fort Hood back then. I'm just going to say Fort Hood. A little background, first in full transparency, this is not something that I really ever brought up to people because I thought I might have imagined it, but it always stuck in my mind and gave me the weird cold in the gut feeling. I'm just going to relay what I saw. I was a big monster, cryptid, paranormal fan growing up and was always open to the idea of that stuff being real. So on to the event. I was able to get my CO to grant me a 24-hour pass during a work week because my brother and his wife were expecting their first child in San Antonio, and my oldest brother had gone on leave and was also going to be there for the arrival of our niece or nephew. CO had instructed me to be back in uniform by 10 the next day. Pass in hand, I load up and head out towards San Antonio from post. I would normally take 195 south through a lot of back roads and farmland. It skips a lot of traffic on 35 and drops you back on the main highway right before Georgetown. There really isn't much in that stretch of road, though. Mostly farmland on either side and small towns with 10 to 15 miles of nothing in between. Arrive with no problem in San Antonio, spend the day with family at the hospital until my niece is born around 9 p.m. that evening. I decide that I'm going to head back to post that evening after all and head out around 2200, 2230, 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. for you, Christian. I pass through Georgetown and take 195 north a little after 2 a.m. 195 was dark back then. I don't know if it's gotten more lights out there now, but it was not a spot to be without a light source, especially after passing through the small towns. Streetlight maybe every few hundred yards. I'm driving along at 55 to 60 miles per hour. And
look at that.
What?
Driving all slow in the middle of the night. I already don't like this guy.
Wow, Christian, very judgmental of you.
It is.
Not very Christ-like. And really haven't passed any other vehicles since leaving 35. I passed one of those rare streetlights and I feel like I noticed something on the side of the road leaving the glow of the light. I look out my window and it's right there running along the fence line on all fours, keeping pace with my truck for a good quarter mile. It looked like a big wolf with long front arms, and after looking at the speedometer again and back out the window, it looked over at me. I looked around for any other vehicles and switched my headlights over to running lights, rolled my window down to try and see better, and placed cruise control on to start slowing down a bit. I could hear this thing's footfalls and its huffing while it ran. I could see its jaw opening and closing while it ran. From what I could estimate from the farmland fence, its shoulders came up to at least 4 feet. Something in my primate brain said, GTFO. This thing had started to run at a shallow angle, taking it closer to me, and my big brain had slowed my truck to 40. Not a wise move. That made me hit the accelerator and get out of there, seeing it start cutting back toward the farmland away from the road. I got to my barracks, said, WTF, that was weird. I must have been dreaming.
What?
I know, exactly.
I mean, okay.
You're definitely not dreaming. You saw a dogman, clear as day. Well, clear as night. As clear as night can be.
I've fallen asleep when I've driven, but I'm not sure I've gotten to the dream state.
Yeah, especially you'd be having a dream of driving while you're driving. I don't know. Shrugged and put it out of my mind because it creeped me out and made me feel uneasy. So while I never forgot it, it's one of those things that still gets under my skin. I like watching the cryptid, weird documentaries and all that stuff when I'm not doing anything at home. Around 8 months ago, I watched the Dogman Triangle, Werewolves in the Lone Star State. I knew about the Michigan Dogman, but was surprised to hear that they were down in Texas. And my duty station falls right in that area. That's when it started to fall into place as to what it was. I just wanted to share what happened with me.
Oh my gosh. science or army experiment.
Classic.
Military
classic stuff,
experiment.
really.
I don't want to just give it to one branch. Military experiment that got away. Dean Koontz book style.
Dean Koontz. Fun name to say. Yeah, you get a lot of those on other weird paranormal podcasts. You get a lot of those stories about it being a military experiment gone wrong, or super soldiers, or all these people coming forward to tell the truth. You're like, okay.
They make our military seem much more exciting than I'm sure it is.
Yeah, according to folks that I know in the military, for sure.
Yeah.
But there are those that have some pretty wild stories as well. So, we've done full episodes on them. If you haven't checked it out, it's probably 5, 6 episodes ago now? 8, 10? Who knows? What is time, if anything? And that's fine. That actually reminds me of one of the stories I heard that I think was maybe in Georgia or along that area, where the guy had seen a similar incident when a dogman was running outside his window. And then at some point it ran faster than the car, dashed across the road, and just disappeared in the tree line. He was mentioning that the weird thing about that is that they were about, I think, 15-ish, 20 miles away from a quote-unquote known facility that was doing experiments on specific animals and whatnot. So
it was like a vet clinic?
Yeah, they lived 15 and 20 miles away from a vet.
I just got you know how some people embellish stories and stuff like that. I could see if this was on certain cable news channels, they would be like, and it's a quarter mile from this military research clinic. And all it is,
a guy playing Call of Duty.
Yeah, something like that. And he's watching, and it's a vet's office. He's just sitting there watching it, and the army takes their dogs there sometimes.
There you go. Hey, experiments are experiments, but they made it sound like it was kind of like the what's that one place that I want to say Montauk, but I don't think it's not Montauk. There's some research facility off the coast somewhere in Florida or Georgia, somewhere around there, and that's where that weird
alleged.
No, it's real. That weird, that weird dog with a beak or whatever washed up on the beach. You remember that weird?
Yeah, a decayed animal.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it was, it looked freakish.
Like everything that sits in the ocean for a while and then washes up in the beach. I mean, one time something was so hideous, they blew it up with dynamite and chunks.
Get that thing out of this earth.
Yeah, and chunks of it fell down and hit people.
Nice.
Because they brought everybody from the town. Of course, that was a whale.
Okay.
You ever seen that video?
That chain of events sounds very familiar to me.
They put a lot of dynamite in that whale, and it blew up, and it was like, explosion. We all like that. And then you look up in the air, and all these things are flying through the air. You see the camera.
What did you think was going to happen? Like you're just going to disintegrate the whale's body? Very, very strange stuff. All right, this next one is very fascinating. I think you're going to like it. Just kidding. You don't like any of these. This next one is called the Boar Hunting Dogman. Yes, of course, boar hunting.
Well, now we have another creature that's kind of tough, so let's see what happens.
Well, you will see what happens, and this is by New Guy Here, 996.
I mean, a boar took out the legendary King Robert Baratheon.
Okay. You and your Game of Thrones references can stay in the past where you belong. I'm going to go ahead and get into the story. It says, apologize for any grammatical errors as English isn't my first language. I recently became interested in cryptids due to an experience I had as a teenager. I was 16, almost 17 at the time, and I believe I encountered what's known as a dogman. It was early summer. To provide some context, I was born and raised in Croatia, specifically in Slavonia.
That's Italian.
Yeah, well, so am I, so it checks out, huh? Near Nova Gradiška, an upper part of Croatia bordering Bosnia. The area is characterized by vast plains, occasional hills, and dense forests. My father, a car mechanic, acquainted himself with some hunters from Zagreb, who owned a hunting lodge about 7 kilometers, or roughly 400,000 miles, beyond our village.
Wait. That's not how it... No.
I'm going to do that whenever I see kilometers, so everyone just needs to get on board with that.
How many kilometers was it again?
It was 7. What is that, like 5 miles or something like that?
If that much.
Yeah, who cares, honestly? I haven't seen them in 9 years since I left at 18, so I'm uncertain if they still own the lodge. These hunters were familiar with each other, and I once accompanied them on a nighttime hunting excursion out of sheer boredom. They had a sophisticated setup, a small hunting shelter atop 4 sturdy legs, equipped with 2 beds. Surrounding the shelter, about 100 meters away, were 4 stone fence posts, each with a motion sensor, If they were asleep, they wore a vibrating electric strap on their wrists or necklaces to awaken them.
Mm-hmm. That's where they wore it.
Wow. Wow. Weird. Getting very weird over there, Christian. Let's continue.
Well, I'm getting a note from the producer.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, Eric. He's going to clean it up. One night, I nervously joined them, stationed with an older gentleman named Marco, about 2 kilometers from the primary post. The trek through the woods in pitch darkness with only a small flashlight left me terrified. Upon reaching the hunting shelter, Marco briefed me on the setup, emphasizing the importance of silence. As the night progressed without event, Marco shared basic hunting rules and tales of poachers. Around 11 p.m., we settled in, Marco wearing a necklace with a vibration device while I had a bracelet. Around 3 a.m., I was going to go very weird with that. Around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by the vibrating bracelet. Marco, already up with his rifle pointed towards the south-facing window where he had heard rustling moments before. In the dim moonlight, we observed a group of wild boars, including a mother and her 3 offspring, about 60 meters away.
Kill them.
There you go. That's the spirit. 180 feet away. I cleaned it up for you. Marco aimed through his scope as they entered the sensor's range. As I plugged my ears, as instructed, my bracelet vibrated again. I said, "Oh yeah." No. And Marco paused, suspecting more boars joining the group. Suddenly, 2 of the smaller boars were catapulted into the air as if launched from a cannon, followed by the mother boar being lifted by a creature resembling a dogman. It stood about 3 meters tall, hunched over, with a wolf-like head. 9 feet, as we mentioned previously.
Nice
Very nice.
conversion there.
I know, and it was so smooth. It was I wasn't even trying to, it's fine. Either way. I gasped audibly. I went, prompting the creature to notice us and charge towards our shelter. Marco and I were terrified as the creature pounded on the shelter's legs, breathing heavily. After what felt like an eternity, a distant shot rang out, followed by silence. We remained frozen until morning when our fellow hunters arrived. 2 of the small boars were found nearby with broken backs, but the mother was missing. We noticed large paw prints, slightly odd, with an extra toe or misshapen digit. Haunted by the experience, I refrained from visiting forests and eventually moved to Germany. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a YouTube channel a year ago that I realized there might be information about my encounter online. Even now, I'm uncertain whether to share my story, but I'm willing to provide more details if needed. Cheers. Well, you can't be uncertain to share your story at the end of sharing your story. So there's that. But that is a terrifying account.
The baby pigs got yeeted.
No, just their backs were broken.
They got catapulted through the air. That's
Oh, you said
yeeted.
yeeted. I thought you said eated, and I wasn't
Yeet.
going to correct your grammar for obvious reasons. But yeah, straight up shot out of a cannon. Can you just imagine seeing boar bodies just flying through the air? You're like, what the hell?
I got the image of like when a killer whale throws a seal through the air.
That is very entertaining as well. Yes,
That is maybe entertaining is the right word if you're a killer whale.
but you're in the water, so it's not as hard as hitting the. Well, actually, depending on how high you go, it could probably still hurt. You like to think the aerodynamics, though, of a seal, he might be able to, dive position back into the water.
I think it's to stun them so that the fellow killer whales on the hunt can come up and
Just eat him.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, I did all this work, and then you guys just ate him. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I only ate the seal wings, which I don't know what a seal wing is, but us humans like our wings. Whales are mammals. Maybe it's similar. But either way, back to Dogman.
Sure. Yeah. Let's dive back into the subject matter, shall we? What do you think of that story?
I don't think it's real, obviously. But there
Well,
could have
no.
been something out there. Why?
Well, what? Okay.
We've talked about how when we see something
We say something.
that's true. We've talked about how when you see something that defies the imagination, you can put an image on it that is a little bit more acceptable. I don't know why we would put a Dogman on there and not Lassie, but what is this hideous creature that obviously, like Bigfoot, must come through a portal of some sort because they aren't there all the time.
There have been those stories. Yeah, you'd think it's kind of hard for a 9-foot tall creature to just hide in the woods.
Yeah, and also not.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is it that hard, really? Though the woods are pretty vast. Very large, dense in most places. You'd think that maybe, I don't know, maybe they climb trees.
You know,
Maybe they burrow.
Maybe they don't exist.
Oh, yeah. Never even thought about that, huh?
Yeah.
Mm.
I think I think it's hard for me to grasp Dogman, and I would like our listeners to explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old and why I should believe it.
Well, you heard the man. Explain to Christian like a 5-year-old why Dogman exists, I guess. Yeah, it's really not that if Bigfoot exists, right? Why can't Dogman exist? Why can't there be another thing that's like a dog? You know what I mean? Like,
Does Bigfoot exist still, though?
oh, yeah.
I mean, I'd like to believe so because that one's fun.
Do any of our listeners out there, and we have a decent amount of listeners, do any of you have a Dogman experience that could just shed some light on this? Give Christian your firsthand account of seeing a Dogman. And maybe, who knows, maybe we convince him. Probably not. Don't get your hopes up, but he'll be kind at the very least. Well, he'll try to be kind. He'll be as not judgmental as he can, which isn't a lot, but he'll do his best.
You know, no matter what, I'd like to understand why people see things like this. Like, if I'm a skeptic, which I tend to lean that way,
Really?
and these things shouldn't exist, what are people seeing? Because obviously people are having experiences.
Yes.
That's the one thing that, like, skeptics tend to gloss over is that these are experiences.
They're seeing something. Something is happening. Yes.
So even if it's just made up or just a figment of someone's imagination, why does that happen? And what's the message there? There's got to be some reason why our brain would do something like that.
Now, do you believe stories a little more when it's more than one person witnessing it? Or is it just in your mind a shared hallucination?
No, so I mean, it's more likely to be a better story, or you can connect things a little bit better. It's better with more witnesses.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes when we witness things like that, we're with our buddies or friends, and then we talk about it right afterwards, and then the memories kind of get mixed up a little bit. If you had a bunch of witnesses and you could separate them right away and get their statements, you might have a better sampling of what's really going on there. Somewhere in there, you might find some information that's closer to the truth. It's a little hard when a group of friends see the same thing and then they talk about it, because then their memories might have a memory of what their other friend saw from a different angle. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. The one thing about this is that maybe not so much the author himself in this story, but the person he was with, this Marco character, was a hunter.
Which brings me back to another point. This thing's charging him. Marco has a gun with a scope on it. Take a shot. Might be the last one you get.
True. Yeah. You might be a little intimidated at the size of this thing being 9 feet tall and probably four-ish feet wide, maybe.
I'd be intimidated enough to unload that hunting
every
rifle.
bullet I have. I'd be like, I'm going to kill this thing or it's going to kill me.
Even me, who wouldn't believe that I was actually seeing a Dogman, I would unload.
You wouldn't be afraid you're just shooting a human being.
Not if it's charging at me like that and huge.
You're like, I know Dogman isn't real, but I'm going to kill this, whatever it is.
We established this thing was 9 feet. So if something 9 feet looking like a dog's running at me, I might just think it's a giant, a cannibalistic giant if it's...
With pointy ears. Yeah.
Especially after it yeeted some future bacon.
That's right. Yeah,
you know, I'm gonna be nervous.
As I see it flying through the air. My bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There goes our breakfast. Marco, shoot that thing.
Exactly. This next one is called Dogman by the Window. That's by Jerry B.
This sounds wholesome.
How much for that Dogman in the window? No. I was awakened one night as a very small child. I felt as if something was staring at me. I sat up and looked out of my curtain, which was lightly covering the window beside my bed, and saw a very large, abnormally large, what appeared to be German Shepherd head. It was staring right at me, apparently watching me while I was sleeping. But when I sat up and tried to no avail, holler for my dad, my voice would not come out. It just walked away. Bipedal. I could not see the rest of its body. I only know that it was bipedal because at that time, we lived in a mobile home on the edge of the woods in Jacksonville, Florida, and the mobile home was jacked up rather high due to being so close to wetlands. So my window was so high off the ground, my dad, who was 5'11", demonstrated the next day that what I saw was impossible because he could barely reach my window with his fingertips, standing on the ground on his tiptoes. I was awake, I was not dreaming, and I've had several paranormal experiences, if you will, throughout my lifetime. The time frame, by the way, was approximately 1975 and 1976-ish.
He old.
He is old. The one thing, like before they mentioned the height, the one thing I thought when he said dog or the German Shepherd head was back then it probably wasn't as much, but now a pretty popular mask that you can buy is like a German Shepherd.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I got to the height of this thing and also the
year.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, those masks definitely weren't in production back then, but creepy. I mean, how big is that guy be? The dad's 5'11", on his tippy toes. His fingertips can barely reach the window. That's got to be at least another 1.5 feet. That puts that thing, what, like 7.5 feet? Maybe 8 feet?
Yeah.
That's pretty tall unless you got a box.
But also, this one gave me the feeling of like a sleep paralysis episode. The way he couldn't call out for his dad.
That could also just be terror, though.
It could be, but it could also be. It sounds classic sleep paralysis. Maybe just not seeing a hat man or a shadow man. You're seeing a cryptid.
Spooky.
I don't know, man. Also, what's Dogman doing in a mobile home park?
Well, it's Florida.
If you're going to munch on some humans, you want to get some healthier ones.
Wow.
Not ones filled with a bunch of carbohydrates and sugar and
you need the
cigarettes.
best tasting ones? Come on.
I mean, that's probably not healthy for a wild animal. Not as healthy as eating somebody that just has a healthy diet.
It's all lean at that point. Lean muscle.
Lean muscle, not like a bunch of body fat, which, if you live in the northern parts of the country, the extra body fat helps. But in Florida, it's hot.
It really do be like that.
So,
yeah. And apologies on behalf of my co-host for anyone that lives in a trailer park that may be listening to this.
I'm not putting down people that live in trailer parks.
It's too late. The damage is done.
But it tends to be a thing where you don't always get to eat as healthy if you live in a trailer park.
Yes.
In this economy, no.
In this economy, I don't think so, pal.
Also not in the economy of the 70s, because I had friends that lived in mobile home parks back then, and it's just, maybe you own a place, but it's not the biggest place. Place you call your own.
Sure.
Go buy some pork rinds to eat with your dinner.
Wow, what a great side.
Super nuts.
Anyway,
okay, the pork rinds come from the previous story. Marco made use of the dead baby pigs.
Said, thanks, Dogman. This'll be delicious. This next one's called Another Michigan Dogman Encounter.
Why does Michigan have so many?
I do not know, but I named this Michigan Dogman Encounters because of the podcast that exists by Vic something or other. It's called Dogman Encounters. So, haha, now I'm stealing your traffic, Vic. Take that.
There is a podcast exclusively about Dogman.
Yes, and it's been on the air for years. And
fascinating.
There's a lot of, and I know he has a lot of fans. He has a lot of people that love his show and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people that are also like, look, man, you've had like 5,000 Dogman stories on your show. What are the odds that 90% of those are all fabricated? And I remember years ago I listened to a few, so I honestly can't really judge or say anything because I honestly don't remember any of the stories that I heard on that show. But he seemed like a decent enough guy, and he's gained some traction. So good on him. And now I'm going to gain some traction by stealing his keywords. You're welcome, Vic. And you're welcome to the rest of YouTube as I explain how we expand the show out, because we have no secrets here, okay?
I thought we were sacrificing animals.
Well, we do that on the side, Christian, and that we do keep secret, but thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks for ruining that. Look what you've done. Anyway, this is by Built by Bama. Roll Tide. Classic. No, I'm not going to. It's fine. It says this happened when I was about 7 years old to my uncle. He's no longer with us, and I want to share his story. Growing up, I lived in northern Michigan on 5,000 acres of farm and ranch land.
Well, look who's bragging.
I know, right? I'm living on half an acre here. How dare you? You've got me by literally 99.8% and more.
I mow the lawn here. That half an acre seems large. I mean, it
is pretty large.
Seems more than half an acre.
And by you saying that, you ruined my opportunity to at some point say the brown man that mows my lawn.
You let somebody else mow your lawn?
No, I was gonna bring that up at some point, but now I can't. Now that people know. It's a nice little Easter egg for future when I do bring that up, because it's hilarious. Anyway, growing up, I lived in northern Michigan on 5,000 acres of farm and ranch land that backed up into state land. Nothing but miles of forest and pasture could be seen. Needless to say, it made us pretty tough, and it takes a lot to spook us. We are all avid hunters, fishermen, and outdoorsmen. Being the only girl, I was raised as a tomboy, and I'm just the same. My uncle went off to join the military, becoming a senior NCO and a prominent Special Forces division of the U.S. Navy. He was 6'4".
I wonder what that is.
I know. What could that be? He was 6'4", built like a wrestler, obviously skilled in survival tactics, and nothing rattled him. He was home on leave and went out hunting as it was deer season. I remember him coming in the house shaking and crying, saying he saw something in the woods. My uncle never cried. He was tough as nails and would tear someone to shreds before he let them make him cry. My grandmother tried to get him to make sense, but he kept saying he saw Bigfoot mixed with a wolf. They were having relations. No. My granny immediately got my grandfather, and he rounded up the rest of the guys hunting my dad. That must be some kind of whoops-a-daisy. Why were the rest of the guys hunting your dad? Anyway, probably needed a comma there. The rest of the guys hunting, comma, my dad, a few male cousins, my uncle, who was still terrified but went because he didn't want to be labeled a chicken. Got all their shotguns and ammunition and saddled the horses to go clear the woods. Apparently they were aware of the Dogman, but I was blissfully young and ignorant. They told me to stay inside, and for no reason was I to step outside of our house until they returned. I had never heard my dad or grandfather so serious, so I hid in my room. Sunset comes, and they still aren't back. I'm really worried at this point because they never stayed in the woods until after dark. Shortly, I heard the sound of the horses running to the barn and their voices. I was so relieved. They looked troubled when they came into the house, but didn't say anything, probably not to spook me. At dinner, my dad laid down the law. I was no longer allowed to play outside or go to the barns alone. I had to have my grandfather with me at all times. Of course, I was upset by this and felt my independence was being taken away, but I obeyed. The next morning, my dad and grandfather taught me how to shoot. I knew it was serious. I overheard the adults talking the next night. Apparently there were tracks where my uncle had a sighting bigger than any wolf could make, but they were definitely dog tracks. As I said before, we are avid outdoorsmen and hunters. We can identify tracks easily, but these couldn't be identified. About 8 feet up in a tree were claw marks. No Michigan bear could make those. We also found claw marks of about the same height on multiple trees throughout our property. Had cattle mutilated, and not in the way a coyote or bear would, and it lasted that whole winter. We lost about 30 to 40 cattle that winter, all of them mutilated, all with the same wolf and dog tracks in the snow. I really feel this experience changed my uncle. Who knows, he did multiple tours in the Middle East for Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom before he took his own life. After that experience, though, he was never the same. He went from not ever drinking to never seeing him without a bottle of Jack, and his eyes were always haunted. He changed his personality and never went out in the woods again. He quit hunting, and he eventually just quit coming home to visit on leave. He didn't even come home for my dad's funeral 2 years later. It was heartbreaking to see him deteriorate the way he did. I truly believe he saw something out there, and it ultimately killed him. That's unfortunate.
Yes. I would attribute it more to the experiences he had overseas than Dogman, but...
But you weren't there, you know. But at the same time, understandable either way. I saw a Bigfoot mixed with a wolf. That's the last thing you want to see.
Which is exactly what Dogman is, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, I'll cut that out. Don't worry, guys.
It's just a costume that the aliens wear when they're...
No, it's a costume Bigfoot wears. He gets one of those German Shepherd masks we were talking about. Pops that bad boy on.
Extra large. Actually, Bigfoot would probably just have an actual head.
Well, now that we've solved that, spooky.
It is spooky, but also...
You think it's all made up?
It's Dogman.
Yeah.
You know who the original Dogman was, right?
Teen Wolf.
Anubis.
Well, two vastly different things.
Yeah.
Teen Wolf versus Anubis. I mean, and I think we actually talked about Anubis in the first Dogman episode, but honestly, who knows? Because that was 25 years ago or something. I mean, Anubis, you got all kinds of stories out there about the ancient dog-headed men and whatnot.
Have we looked into, since obviously Michigan's a hot spot for dogmen, have we looked into Native American stories in that region?
I have not. But I'm sure there's plenty of them. You know, it seems like there's a lot of hot spots for Dogman actually in the States.
See, I feel like Dogman is just a new cryptid that never existed before the internet.
Yeah, but again, like I said, there's stories way back when it wasn't called Dogman, but there's stories of werewolf type creatures or dog headed men or anything like that. Like, what's that cynocephaly or whatever? You know what I'm talking about, there, right?
The what?
The cynocephaly?
No.
That's pretty much dog people, you know?
Oh, okay.
Dog people. I need that word in front of me if I'm ever going to read it properly. I can't just remember what that word is. But yeah, I mean, you got people all over the history books that have pretty much seen these types of things on their journeys or expeditions or whatever. You know, Marco Polo, Chris Columbus.
Of course they did. Those are very trustworthy sources.
I believe it to be true, yes. And there's nothing wrong with them at all.
I'm maybe a little bit more okay with Marco Polo.
Because you used to play in the swimming pool as a kid, and it brings you good memories.
No, I never did good at that game for some reason.
It's because everyone left when you were Marco. No. Anyway, so we do have one final story and this isn't even really. I found this while I was looking into people's stories, and I forget where it was. It must have been on like Quora or something like that. Someone was like, "Has anyone seen a Dogman, or is Dogman actually real or something?" But this person responded, and I couldn't help but add it to the episode just because it's that weird. And I don't usually poke fun at people on this show, especially when people talk about stories or whatnot, but there's a fine line between seeing something and being the weirdest person that I've ever seen on the internet, you know?
Gotcha.
And we just crossed that line with this story by Dave Wolf.
Oh, interesting name.
Very, very fitting, yes. All right, so yeah, this closeout story by Dave Wolf is called...
I'm telling you, that man does not look stable.
And it goes a little something like this. March of 2021, I had the first of a series of visions where I saw a dog woman. She had no hair, was bare-skinned, and her head was roughly the size of a bear's head, but wolf-shaped.
This is the weirdest succubus story I've ever heard.
If you think it's weird right now, let me tell you, it gets so much weirder. After this, I was sent down an esoteric journey of, why am I seeing cryptids in visions? Eventually, I met a man who worked with a government, who works with a tribe of wolf people who live in Antarctica.
What the hell's going on here?
And were discovered by Nazis in the 40s.
Super nuts.
There are a number of dogmen who live in the hills around here, and I am able to communicate with them. They vary greatly. One was with the settlers who came to the USA and is somewhat religious. Another, 300 miles away, is very large, but is friendly if you get to know him on his terms. Whatever the fuck that means.
You gotta go, oh, he's a good boy.
That's right, yeah. In fact, I'm going to visit him in the coming months and may end up becoming, quote, his. I don't want to know what that means, but it sounds like you're going to be the pet of this dog person. It's fine.
He's gonna wear a collar.
Okay, and we get into that. Eventually, the existence of dogmen, cryptids, aliens, consciousness transfer technology, spoken of in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, will be public knowledge to us surface humans. The cryptids who live in Antarctica are actually very civil, reasonable, can speak English fluently, and are, quote, people, but with animal instincts that they manage quite well. Eventually, when they merge with our society when we are ready, humans will even begin dating them in deeply romantic entanglements. There is a reason why so many humans find furries to be so sexually attractive.
What's the name of this author?
Dave Wolf.
We know what kind of conventions Dave Wolf goes
Dave.
to. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, do you, Dave, but just don't do me. Okay.
My niece makes a lot of money making furries for people she sells to online.
That's what China said. Yeah, I've heard that before. They will have their own app, their own dating services, and their own adult websites.
Woof.
I know. I am looking forward to their existence becoming public knowledge, though I caution people, those who keep them secret will do everything they can to scare humans against them.
Wait, Wolf Hub.
Pervert, it is important not to allow yourselves to fall victim to fear. Many of them are deeply benevolent, kind, caring, in a way humans would do well to emulate. Some, it is true, hate humans and would be violent against us, but they try to stay far away from us. I hope someday we are deemed worthy of knowing these beautiful, deeply spiritual people. Well, Dave,
I'm telling you, that man does not look stable.
I've heard a lot of weird shit in my day, and I've never heard anything as weird as that.
He's attracted to furries without the fur.
Yeah, that is very, very evident. Yeah, he didn't once say, "Hey, I'm really into these dog costumes or whatever," but he did. He made it very clear that he's on their side.
Interesting that he said the regular people will eventually have access to the Emerald tablets, which I'm pretty sure you can go read right now. I think you can even get it free on Kindle Unlimited.
Is that what he said, or did he say that eventually we're gonna meet these people and be fine?
Well, he said that too. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, he said eventually when they merge with our society. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did say will be public knowledge to us surface humans. Wow. I don't know what.
This has to be a troll.
I hope so. I mean, otherwise, we got to start talking about mental health in here, which we have never done because all of our stories are true. But yeah, I mean, what a way to end this episode, you know?
I feel dirty.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I feel like I need to go take a shower after this. But
hey, man, whatever though. If that's your kink, Dave Wolf, super nuts. You can have it. Beat it out of them. I'm not going to kink shame Dave.
You're not going to kink shame him. You're just going to
beat it out of them.
Wow, Christian.
You know what Dave needs though is the vibrating wrist bracelet and necklace from the previous story. I'm just saying. Sounds like something he would be into.
Sounds like it might be up his alley. You know. Yeah, so very strange. Christian, I think it's safe to say at this point that after this episode, you're a full-on believer in Dogman.
Only if Dogman lives in Antarctica and met with Admiral Byrd.
Well, then you're in luck.
I thought those were Nordics that he met with, but I guess I was wrong. It was Dogman.
Yeah, that's where you were mistaken, for sure. What a strange way to end this episode.
We apologize.
Yeah, and apologies to our producer, Eric Long, who had to listen to that final story and is probably second guessing his decisions at this point, but it's fine. Honestly, you know, these things happen.
Well, you know, with all these actual factual stories, we have to throw in a kooky one just to show you we're being serious.
Just to show you that we still got it. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, I guess that's probably how it works. Comment your favorite story below and tell us what you think about this Dave character, huh? And be kind to him. Or
beat it out of him.
Either works, you know? Be sure to subscribe and also be sure to rate and review the show wherever you're at. We have had some fantastic people lately just messaging us, telling us all about, you know, sharing the show around. We got another donation from Renee in the little note section wrote that she's like, I'm doing my best. I'm binging through all the episodes. I'm rating and reviewing on all platforms. I'm like, that is the spirit. Thank you very much. And if you want to be as cool as Renee, our producer, and the several people that have actually donated I don't even feel like we've talked about it, right? We haven't been like, hey, donate. We mentioned it in passing, but it was like a while back. And it's even on the website. It's not like big and bold and like, hey, support the show. It's literally at the very bottom, a little button that says donate or help us keep the lights on. And if you enjoy the show and you want to be a part of that and help us out, there's two ways to do that. You can either donate or just buy merch. You know, we got literally the coolest merch store in the paranormal game. And I say that because I've looked at so many and all their designs are garbage.
You know, I'm going to shout out a couple of YouTube channels I watch for my nerd Marvel, Star Wars stuff, Screen Crush and New Rock Stars.
Why?
And they have a merch store. Doesn't have anything on ours. I look at it and I'm like, that seems like a good idea, but Scott's stuff's better.
Yeah, you got to realize that I am someone that has been doing design for more than half my life, and I am 15 years old right now. So that is at least 7.5 years. Just kidding. It has been 16 years, actually 17 years that I've been doing this, and I specialize in branding. And so I know what looks cool, and I know what fits our brand and what's popping. And honestly, everyone else should hire me.
If Scott had more time, he would be making nerd shirts for me, like for all the shows I like and all kinds of stuff, but he doesn't have enough time to just be my personal t-shirt designer.
Yeah, I've had those days, you know. I've had those glory days in the hot sun. I had a business once where I designed t-shirts constantly, and I'm over that. But now I just design it for the show because I like making weird stuff that's poppy, and I'm very good at it. So take that, everyone else. So, and after, you know, that long spiel that was completely useless, but either buy merch or donate. If you're a fan of the show, you want to help us keep the lights on. It's really that simple. We are doing our best not to throw ads on anything like that. we've been doing this show for about 4 years now, and we've kept it ad-free. Who knows? We're hoping that the show just grows enough and we get support from everyone that just keeps us going. We don't have to throw ads on things, but
Well, I think once we do get to the point that we might throw ads on, we'll still have options for ad-free.
that's right. And folks that are donating, I think I want to say $50 or more or something like that on the website, we do ship out a pretty dope sticker pack. And I know what you're thinking, a sticker pack, it's probably got like 3 stickers in there. That's not worth $50. Nope, I think I counted 25 at the moment, 25 different designs, all of them intricately and beautifully popping. So we send those out with donations whenever we can. And you guys have been awesome, and we appreciate it. And I think I speak on behalf of both Christian and myself when we say that we are humbled by your support, and we thank you. And we will catch you next week right back here on the Frinkity Dinkity, where we're going to be talking alien abductions for the big 200.
I love the probing.
Okay, that's going to be a great soundbite. Scott, clip that. And we'll see you next week. Good.